Welcome. Tonight's story is soft, still, and heavy with memory. It's the kind of story that lives in the quiet corners of a backyard, in the creak of an old swing that moves even when no one is there. It's about a family that once gathered under the big tree every afternoon, about a child whose laughter filled the air like wind chimes, and a mother who still sets the table for three, even though it's just the two of them now. It's about grief, not in the way people cry, but in the way people wait. How they keep a room untouched, a chair unmoved, a swing tied tightly so it won't creak when the wind comes. But grief changes. And sometimes healing doesn't begin with forgetting. It begins with a gentle push, a movement, a note, a swing that dares to move again. So breathe deep, settle in, and join us for the empty swing. The backyard had grown quiet. The grass was longer than it used to be, and the garden hadn't been weeded in months. But the swing was still there, hanging from the old sycamore, its ropes faded, its seat worn smooth by 100 afternoons of small feet. Mira stood at the kitchen window every morning with her coffee, watching it move slightly when the wind passed through, just enough to remind her it hadn't gone anywhere. Neither had the egg. She used to hear laughter outside, wild and bright. Her son, Leo, had lived on that swing. He'd pump his legs toward the sky like he was chasing the clouds, calling out to her to look, always look. And she always did. But now the swing moved without him. Just a gentle sway, as if the air itself missed him. Mira couldn't bring herself to cut it down. She thought about it sometimes, about ending the silent witness that had become too loud. But she didn't. Not yet. Her husband, Daniel, didn't talk about the swing. He just mowed around it and avoided the tree. The two of them had grown quiet with each other, like two shadows passing in the same house. That morning, Mira opened the window and let the wind in. It smelled like rain. And when she looked out again, the swing was still swaying, just slightly. Just enough to stir something in her chest. She whispered his name, not even realizing she had. And for a moment, it felt like Leo was close. Not gone, but hiding. Still playing. Still laughing. Still here. The calendar still had the date circled in red. June 14th. Leo would have been 9 today. Mira traced the circle with her fingertip, remembering how he used to count down the days with sticky notes on the fridge. She hadn't moved them. Even now, they were still stuck there, a fading trail of anticipation that led nowhere. He had asked for chocolate cake this year. No frosting, just powdered sugar and strawberries. She remembered that clearly. Daniel had left early for work that morning. He didn't say goodbye. Or maybe he did, and she just didn't hear it. Mira stood in the hallway, staring at Leo's door. She opened it slowly, like it might creak differently today. The room looked exactly the same. His dinosaur sheets were still wrinkled from the last time he had jumped into bed. A paper crown sat on the nightstand, the kind he always made out of construction paper and wore during breakfast. "Birthday King," it said in crooked letters. She sat on the edge of his bed and breathed in. His scent was fading, but not gone. The air still held him in quiet corners, like dust refusing to be moved. Mira pulled the paper crown into her lap and stared at it until her eyes blurred. By noon, she found herself in the kitchen. She didn't mean to bake, but her hands reached for the flour without thinking. Sugar, eggs, strawberries, no frosting. The oven timer rang, and she froze. She remembered how Leo would dance in front of it, shouting, "Cake's ready! Cake's ready!" like a tiny parade. Mira smiled through tears as she pulled the cake from the oven. She lit a single candle and placed it in the center. Not to celebrate, just to honor. She sat alone at the table, the swing visible through the window, swaying softly like a whisper. And when she closed her eyes and blew out the candle, she made no wish, only a silent promise to remember. Always. The drawer hadn't been opened in months. It was Leo's special spot, a little wooden box with mismatched crayons, paper airplanes, and a flashlight he insisted on keeping, just in case of secret missions. Mira wasn't looking for anything. Maybe she was cleaning. Maybe just reaching for a memory that didn't hurt so much. Her hand hesitated on the drawer handle, then slowly pulled it open. The smell hit her first. That strange combination of crayons and dust and boy. She sifted through the drawer gently, fingertips brushing over old drawings of dragons, stick figure families, and one of her with a superhero cape and Mom Eel's magic written above her head. And then she found it. Folded, tucked into the corner beneath a rubber band and 2 dinosaur stickers. A note, in his uneven handwriting. "Dear Mommy, if you ever get sad, go outside and swing. I'll be there. Love, Leo." The paper trembled in her hands. She reread it, then read it again, as if her eyes couldn't believe what her heart already knew. He had written this before everything. She didn't remember when, only that he had meant it. Mira clutched the note to her chest and let the tears come without shame. Not loud, not violent, just soft and steady, like rain on a roof. She stayed there for a long time, on the edge of his bed, listening to the quiet. And then, slowly, she rose. She walked out the door, down the porch steps, through the yard. The swing waited under the sycamore, still swaying just a little. She sat. It groaned beneath her weight, not used to holding anyone anymore. Her hands gripped the ropes, and she pushed off gently, just enough to rock. Eyes closed, heart open. "I'm here," she whispered. And for the first time in a long time, it didn't feel like she was alone. That evening, Mira stayed on the swing until the sky turned violet and the air grew cool. She didn't speak much, just swayed. But in the silence, her thoughts bloomed like soft lanterns. She remembered Leo's voice, how it rose and fell when he made up stories mid-swing, how he'd pretend he could see the stars even before they appeared. Daniel came home late. He parked quietly, not expecting anyone to be outside. But when he saw her, sitting on the swing, framed by twilight, he didn't go inside. He walked slowly across the lawn, every step uncertain, as if the grass might vanish beneath him. She didn't look at him. Not at first. But she didn't move away either. She kept swaying, the rhythm slow and even, like a heartbeat finally remembered. Daniel stood beside the tree. "You're out here," he said. It was all he could manage. 3 words, soaked in months of silence. She nodded. "I found a note." Her voice was soft, like the wind that brushed past them both. He said, if I was ever sad, to come here, that he'd be here. Daniel's eyes glistened in the fading light. He hadn't cried in front of her, not since the hospital. But now, his jaw tightened, and he looked up at the branches above, as if Leo might be nestled somewhere in the leaves. "I hear him," he whispered. "Every morning when I open the garage, when I pass his room." His voice broke, and he cleared his throat, ashamed of its frailty. Mira reached out her hand. Not to fix him. Not to explain anything. Just to hold. He took it, slowly, as if it might disappear. And for the first time in a long time, they sat together, quiet and still. Two parents, one swing, and a memory between them that didn't have to be spoken aloud. It was already there, hanging gently in the space where their son had once laughed. The next morning, Mira opened the back door and felt the breeze brush past her face. It was the same kind of wind from the day Leo learned to swing by himself, strong, playful, full of invisible hands lifting him higher. She stepped onto the porch, barefoot, coffee forgotten on the counter behind her. The swing moved gently, even before she reached it. She wondered if it ever really stopped moving, or if time just slowed when she wasn't watching. Daniel joined her, quiet and close. He carried a small radio, the one Leo used to dance to when he was 5, spinning in the grass like a wild little comet. Without a word, he set it on the table and turned the volume low. A soft piano melody filled the air, rising between birdsong and wind. They didn't speak. They just sat. Mira with her knees tucked close, Daniel with his hands folded like a prayer. The swing moved on its own, creaking just enough to sound like breath. "I used to push him from here," Daniel said quietly. "He always wanted higher. He said the wind would carry him to the moon." Mira smiled softly. "He wanted to bring back moon rocks for show and tell." Her voice cracked in the middle, but she kept going. "Said he'd give one to every kid who believed him." The wind picked up then, swirling through the trees, making the swing twist just slightly. The ropes groaned, and Mira closed her eyes. She could almost hear him. Not clearly, not words, but joy. The kind that stays even after the body is gone. "I think we should do something," she whispered. "For his birthday next year. Not just cake. Something that gives joy, that swings forward." Daniel looked at her, and for the first time in a long time, he nodded without hesitation. "A park," he said. "Or a bench under a tree. Something that moves. Something that stays." Mira squeezed his hand. Something that remembers. It had been nearly a year since Leo's last birthday. The yard had changed. Not much, but enough. The grass was trimmed now, flowers planted near the fence, and a new wooden bench had been built beneath the sycamore tree. Daniel carved Leo's name into it with a small star beside it. The swing was still there. Not replaced, not repaired, just honored. Its ropes wrapped with soft blue ribbons, the seat freshly sanded, but still familiar. Mira had made a new cushion for it, stitched with tiny moons and clouds. That morning, children from the neighborhood came to play. A community garden had been planted nearby, and parents brought snacks and folding chairs. Mira stood on the porch with a tray of lemonade, watching as a little girl climbed onto the swing. Her laughter sounded like Leo's. Not the same, but close enough. Daniel joined her. He didn't say anything. He just looked. The breeze was gentle that day, threading through the trees like a whisper, brushing Mira's hair from her face. When the girl jumped off the swing and ran to her mother, the seat swung backward and paused, as if waiting for another child to climb on. Mira stepped forward, slowly, and placed a small paper note on the bench. It was Leo's, the one she had found in the drawer, laminated now and tied to the wood with a ribbon. "If you ever get sad, go outside and swing. I'll be there." She sat down beside it, her eyes glassy but warm. Daniel sat next to her, and for a while they just listened to the creak of the swing, the chatter of children, the sound of life continuing. The sun dipped low, painting everything in soft gold. And when the wind returned, stronger this time, it caught the swing and lifted it high, as if someone had jumped back on. Mira smiled, a single tear sliding down her cheek. She didn't reach for it. She let it fall. And the swing moved, freely, joyfully, as if someone very small and very loved had come home.
I still hear you in the garden light, in the hush before the fall of night. There's a laugh that lives in the moving air, a shadow swing and you're still there. You used to chase the clouds so high, your feet like wings against the sky. Now I watch the rope sway slow, and I swear I see you in the glow. You are the wind that knows my name, the echo soft, the gentle flame. I close my eyes, you're never far. You ride the wind, you are my star. The world may turn, the days may fade, but love like this is never afraid. You're in the swinging skies that blaze, where the wind still plays. Your room untouched, your notes still near, a tiny voice I still can hear. You said to swing if I felt low, and now I do, and now I know. You are the wind that knows my name, the echo soft, the gentle flame. I close my eyes, you're never far. You ride the wind, you are my star. The world may turn, the days may fade, but love like this is never afraid. You're in the swinging skies that blaze, where the wind still plays. No need for words, no final lines, just creaking ropes and subtle signs. The swing still moves, the branches sigh, and I remember how to cry. You are the wind that knows my name, the lullaby that stays the same, forever here, not just a phase. You're where